This episode of Rewired is supported by Neurony. Over 20 years of experience and more than 500 companies served, Neurony helps companies grow faster with AI tailored to their business and embedded into real workflows that deliver measurable value. Neurony helps teams reduce friction, improve decision making, and scale with confidence. So practically, it's fear of replacement.
I think it's fear of unknown.
Fear of unknown.
AI in all the lines, but not in the bottom line, because it actually ends up being marginal.
What did you see that it's really working in generating adoption from companies?
Taking the people along.
Welcome back to Rewired. Today we are talking about what happens after the AI decision is being made inside the organizations where actually the implementation is the real challenge. Our guest today is Miruna Bujor, Engagement Manager at McKinsey Company. Miruna focuses on large-scale transformation programs, especially for financial institutions across Europe, with a focus on Gen AI, agentic AI, and AI-enabled process intelligence. Her work sits at the intersection of strategy and execution. She's in the room when the strategy is being written and in the room when it meets reality. Miruna, welcome to Rewired.
Rewired. Raw, real, unfiltered.
So Dennis, our magic person in the back of the podcast, is telling us that actually is more than 95% of the people who watch this channel don't really subscribe. And I know that maybe you are sick of subscribing to more channels, but for us it means quite a lot. So if you like any of our episodes and if you would like to see a more valuable guest in this episode, can you please just subscribe or like our episode? Thank you very much.
I'm Miruna, I'm a management consultant. I've been serving financial institutions, so both banks and insurers, for the past 10 years.
So what kind of work do you do?
My work shifted entirely to AI work. So supporting the same pool of clients, try to figure out where AI could bring value, how do we build it, how do we scale it, and actually reap the benefits of this. So day to day, what I do, and I feel I'm very lucky from this perspective, but I get the opportunity to be in the room with the leadership teams that set the strategy, with the engineers that develop the solutions, and with the frontline teams that are
Experiencing
adopting
the
them.
problems.
Exactly. So it's a bit of the full chain from the ambition to actually seeing concretely how things change and how impact it's coming along.
Nice. How do you feel about avatars and voice agents that are involved as sales personas and are interacting directly with the clients? Where do you think we are now on this topic? And where do you think we would be in 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Because we reached a place where we are discussing interaction with sales force and what we can do for them with artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is advancing more and more for sure. I think if I am to imagine what could be, a target state, I think rather than, let's say I'm a customer, rather than me interacting with multiple avatars across different providers that I use, banks, insurers, retailers, and so on, I think the future could be that I actually have my own, me as Miruna, that would interact with all the AI agents or like avatars of different providers. So I actually don't have to be there only for the critical points, right? So you would actually outsource
points, because we are not outsourcing the decision. The decision is still with us.
Mm-hmm.
So we are outsourcing everything that is interaction.
It could be, right? And I think it depends. I don't think this would be a future or an aspiration for everybody. And I think companies should adapt to this. If I take me as an example, I would like for them to stay, to be able to interact with a human being, because it's easier than if something goes not well. You are able to talk to somebody. You are even able to place the blame to somebody if they did not advise you right. But with an AI, that's not as easy. So depending on how important a certain decision that you make, you, I assume, tend to outsource it less. Mm-hmm. If we talk about whatever would be important for a person, or like health, maybe this could be some areas that
You wouldn't outsource as much.
yes.
So exactly on this topic, I had a discussion in the morning with a colleague, you know him, Alex. He's leading Recruitopia, and he said for half a day yesterday he tried to solve a problem with a online seller. Yeah, I will not say his name. And he was not able to get past the bots in a way, and he was not able to get the problem sorted either. And the need that appeared and he expressed was, I need an AI consultant of my own to deal with that and sort the problem. Yeah,
It can get more frustrating.
exactly. So now, if we are looking, we can look back at the way we were calling taxis, yeah? And we were calling taxis by speaking to people.
Waiting in line. And
Waiting in line, then speaking to people, then waiting again for somebody to take the order. But we were facilitated by people, yeah? And now we are all preferring to use an algorithm that is serving the same need. Is not fundamental, but it's a need. And we perceive it that we are choosing it over the person. Now, the question is, in fact, we know why this is happening, because right now you are getting the same result much quicker and with much bigger probability to get it sorted than when you were calling the person. Do you think that when AI interaction will become more and more consistent, we'll start preferring to interact with an AI rather than a person?
Oh, tough question. I think, again, it depends on the specific area. I think at the end of the day, customers would not, so they care about their experience, right? Whatever it is that I'm looking for, ideally I would like it to be tailored for me. I want it to be faster, and I want to be when I want it to be, right? The experience can be rather tedious, either that's with an AI or with a human at the counter, right? So I think what needs to be solved for, it's rather this angle.
Okay, I understand.
And even if you think about like different generations, right? I would, as I mentioned, I mostly serve financial institutions, so banks and insurers. You would not see me walk into a bank branch unless it's related to my project. So I would prefer to handle everything that I need to do digitally. My parents, for instance, wherever there's an important decision, we need to go there in person, although it's the same information that you would be able to access. So I think it's a bit of what different generations prefer and what the new generations will prefer at the end of the day.
Do you think the old generation have a trust problem, or the fact that they are not that knowledgeable about what they can do today?
Trust, it's for sure, it could be a challenge. I'm not saying this, not saying that it's not, but at the end of the day, it's probably not wanting to like learn something new or handle it on your own. So you would rather have somebody else doing it for you, whether it's the agent in the branch or and so on. And then you can also have the constant loop to see, to get the reassurance that everything is going like accordingly, to be there, to talk to somebody. I think that gives, a bit of comfort. I would assume, right? As I mentioned, I feel I'm a bit in the other bucket. So if possible, just to get an update for me, it's already good enough.
I'm wondering. I've changed. I'm
curious.
curious.
Yeah,
I changed that. Yeah.
Impressed.
No, I'm wondering. You are part of McKinsey, yeah, and McKinsey, it's one of the top companies in the world in consultancy.
Yes.
And this means that you are also connected to what happens at worldwide level. How do you see adoption and permeability of Romanian companies compared to what you are exposed out abroad?
It's a very good question. I do serve clients both in Romania, in CEE, and also in Western Europe. And I think the challenges are a bit different, but there are also advantages. So if I think of companies in CE, I think Romania and CE, I think the speed, it's truly an advantage for them. Because of the scale, it's easier to move past all like the governance layers to start actually implementing changes a bit faster.
So because we are smaller, the companies
Yes,
here are
it's-
smaller in scale.
Exactly.
Okay.
So from the scale perspective, they are able to move faster, and I've also seen they are also very ambitious in my experience, especially as we talk about like more regulated industries, which are I would say more conservative, if you will. But I've seen a lot of ambition. Now, where at times I feel they are under pressure is tech talent. It's at times thinner. Budgets are a bit more constrained. Pressure is bigger.
Desires are higher.
The desires are higher. So and also maybe the tech foundations. So if we talk about like the legacy systems or how they have been operating in the past, they at times could also pose challenges. If I flip the coin and I look at like big companies, Western Europe, I think they have an advantage, which is in the fact that the scale give you the chance to truly build solutions that are reusable. And imagine investing the effort to build, we can actually even like pick an example. You build an AI solution, you deploy it in 10 markets. You do this effort once, but if you do it in a smart way, you're easier.
It's 80% reusable.
Exactly. So you are able to amplify your impact significantly. On the disadvantages side, if you will, the decisions move a bit slower, right? If we talk like very large organizations, it's actually a bit difficult to get going, like to set them in motion and start piloting, start scaling, and so on.
And also, I think that once it's bigger, the particularities of markets, it's also an element that can come as a complexity when it comes to that. And also, I think the priorities of markets could also differ in terms of how fast do you need that solution or not. So then I think it becomes more difficult, because what I've seen, especially in the company that I work for, usually there are solutions that you find in the markets, but when you try to scale them up and say we're going to do ones for 5, 6, whatever several markets, then somebody starts, well, I want to have a blue line here on this. I want something. We are very different here in Poland or in Romania, and then it becomes more complex.
No, I think you always need to have, and it's not even a buffer.
That is democracy to blame.
Yeah.
But I think you always need to have a bit of, and not a bit of, maybe a lot of buffer, or to allocate the capacity to allow for local customizations, right? I'm not saying that's a one-size-fits-all. That's not the takeaway. But the reality is, if you can manage to build some solutions that you can scale and reap the impact faster, that's going to be more helpful in the long run than reinvesting in new builds every time for each market, especially as, now it's maybe a good time to do so, but who knows how in the future let's say the pricing models of LLMs is going to change, like the tokens, to the extent that you can reuse. And I actually could offer you a client as an example where they started building an entire asset library with all the capabilities, like different, even like small things like the voice to text and all the bits and bobs that they were using in various pilots, and collect them into a centralized asset library so that they can be reused depending on what they would like to build.
So an asset library that was all the components and connectors, yeah? And connectors that they were using in order not to go through the approval process for the second time or the third time.
So practically every time there was a solution built, like a voice agent, for instance, whatever could be useful going forward, it was taken and put into that library. Okay. And this, we managed to stack more than 200 components. Now they are rolling out tens of initiatives in many markets.
Are they doing the development based on citizen development approach, or the development is still done by engineers in this particular case that you are referring to?
It's a mix also in terms of teams. So a part of the solutions they are developing internally, and they also have like a multitude of vendors. Even for the same solution, they would get for different markets, different vendors. So they are able to compare what is performing better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of the nitty-gritty, what they are using,
You don't.
I
Okay,
couldn't
you're
give
not
you an
exposed
answer.
to that. Yeah. No, so I want to define a little bit the concept of citizen development. So right now, the ability to develop solution has been democratized a lot,
Mhm.
and that means that a person who was never a developer can build his own application.
Yes.
Yeah, it has implications from security point of view, from reliability point of view, but overall he can build it. And probably this would be the direction that we'll see companies going towards in the future. I'm asking, considering the places where you are in the most advanced areas of implementation right now involved. If you have seen already the signs for it, and if there are approaches that are structured in order to empower citizen development in a safe way.
Meaning to incentivize your team.
And make sure that your team, when they develop, considering that they're not developers, they don't screw anything.
When we think about developing like new solutions and so on, I've seen some potential mistakes, meaning of the companies that they say, we want to do AI, where do we start? Let's just do AI. So let's start a bit with getting some licenses, co-pilots, let's just give access to everybody and then see what will come back.
Yeah.
In my experience, it's not the best approach. And what I've observed in these organizations is you actually end up with a lot of AI, right, in all the lines.
A lot of consumption.
A lot of consumption. So AI in all the lines, but not in the bottom line, because it actually ends up being marginal. People go for things that are a bit like painful, but not significant enough. So I save 5 minutes here. I can actually, spend 2 hours to
optimize the writing of this email.
Yeah, like read an email, send a meeting, and so on.
Yeah.
So it ends up being very fragmented. It also ends up, depending on your industry, but being rather horizontal. So I have a bit in, I think, insurance, a bit in claims, a bit in sales, a bit in underwriting. If I sum everything up, I am pretty much where I was, right? It did not truly transform the way in which I work.
Mm-hmm.
So going in...
This would be the democratized approach, the decentralized approach. When we are giving licenses and we say, you deal with them, you make your work better. Yeah?
Exactly.
Okay.
For instance, I also use all these like tools to try to make my day a bit better. But in reality, if we are to think more ambitious, this is not usually what the companies are for. So like some marginal
improvements.
time. Exactly. And again, very fragmented, very horizontal. What I've seen that worked really well was business-led strategy, and actually not starting with what is immediately obvious and it's 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, but what's actually the most painful process or painful area, and not can we experiment with AI, but how can we actually transform this process with AI? And maybe I can give you an example from a different client, which is a bank. And maybe it could be relatable, but let's think you have a company and you would like to get a loan, I don't know, micro or SME. Now, usually the process, it's not the most pleasant one, right? I mean, you walk in a branch, then you need to wait at least a few days to get an answer. And the moment you step outside that branch, there's an entire process that starts, that involves multiple departments. Like, do we have all the, let's say, financials from your company? And then there's the whole analysis of like your P&L, your cash flow, the risk assessment, preparing a credit memo, putting together a facility letters, what are the covenants for you, and so on. So there's an entire chain with many people involved until you get an answer if we are able to even grant you this loan. And I connect this a bit now with the experience. How would it be if you can get an answer in like a day or even less?
Even almost on the spot, because all the information should be mostly accessible.
Exactly. So this is, for instance, something that we've built with agentic AI. And I can get a bit into this maybe in the evolutions later on. And I actually found it fascinating. It was last year and among my first projects, because all these processes that I described. So I take the financials that you've given me. I run all the analysis. I also scrap the internet, right, to understand who are the other owners of the companies and so on. And then I take everything to my own risk guidelines. So how do I usually would perceive you? Would I grant this loan? What do we need to have in place and so on? And being able to do this actually end to end. And what I found fascinating, as I mentioned back in the day, is to see all these like agents, each of them tasked with a very specific
Job.
activity. So one is I just extract the data. One is I just compute the ratio. One is like managing the others. One agent was just giving feedback to the other. So observing the interaction on the platform between them, I found like really fascinating, and also, correcting themselves and being able to provide actually the end to end the offer that we would hand you. A caveat here: does this work for all the cases? No. Of course, there are potentially exceptions, more sensitive cases. But does it work for many of the standard cases that people still spend a lot of time on? And from what I've seen, yes. When we started like building it and actually, started funneling concrete cases to go through our agents, we built all this on our platform. And what was a very good experiment that we ran with the board and the full company was to show these are the 2 credit memos. Which one is done by AI?
Okay.
And you've done it with 2 credit memos, or you took a stack of 10, and what was the result out of this question?
We wanted to actually see if people would notice because in terms of the correctness, like the math part, the calculations, they were obviously right, and we compared one by one. But we wanted to see if people would perceive it as a difference, and also to showcase the quality that those agents could produce. And it took some time. I mean, it was not an easy exercise to make them emulate as much as possible the human behavior and the whole assessment, and having also all the guardrails in place and making the right decisions at the right points. Because as you know, if you probably ask an AI something 10 times, you're going to get slightly different answers, or more than different answers. In more regulated industries like banks and insurers,
it's not acceptable.
There are many situations where you don't want this. I mean, if I have this input, then this is what needs to happen next, right? It's you cannot afford any flexibility.
What was the most challenging thing that, from a technical point of view or from a business point of view, that you needed to go past on that particular project?
I think it was not only on that project, but on many other projects. And if you allow me to think what would be the main challenges, I mentioned a bit this business-led strategy. I mean, where do you go? There's of course a bit on the tech with, like the scaling. How do you build this in a smart way? Do you have problems with integration with your core systems and so on? Data, of course, super important to have access to the right data and for it to be of a good quality, because if you put something that's not good in, there's not anything good coming out, and this actually erodes trust. But where I'm trying to get to, and this is potentially the most understated challenge, are actually the people. What do I mean by this? Not having the right, buy-in for what we're trying to build, not being brought in early on along the process, not having the right upskilling, not understanding what their role is as we deploy this, and even more fearing to contribute because they won't know what their role will be afterwards.
Okay, so practically it's fear of replacement.
I think it's fear of unknown.
Fear of unknown.
But I think the core of it is you cannot build, I cannot build with my teams this is the perfect product, hand it to the company and expect adoption. Unfortunately, this is not how it works.
What did you see that it's really working in generating adoption from companies?
It's taking the people along. And let me take a different example, not with the credit, but with an insurance company, where we did a bit of prioritization, and long story short, sales was the area where we perceived we could bring most of the impact. And growth, it's always more difficult because productivity you can measure, it's easy, you do it now, you see the impact. In sales or in any growth, it's we do it, is it us, is it the market, is it the people, can we actually quantify and attribute it? It's a bit tougher.
Not always, yeah.
But sales was of particular interest for them, and it was also the area where we thought we can change how things are going with the sales force. And we practically built 4 AI use cases.
Okay.
There was the hyper-personalization for everything related to marketing. It was a sales coaching assistant, like a sales coaching tool that would practically be with you in all the customer discussions, give you feedback, give you talking points, and so on.
Like listening to the discussion?
Listening to the discussion.
Okay.
Yes. And a knowledge base and bot, which, we all know this by now. You can find information. This was closed, by the way. So it knew the internal corpus of information, so you can easily access information about, products, compare them, and figure out what to offer me if I'm the customer. So how we did this? We built these 4 cases, and it was also a testament of this.
How much time did it take for you to build?
Exactly what I was going. 4 months.
4 months. That is
4 months.
I think it was magic from the point of view of the client.
Yes, this was also the moment where I realized this is
Different
a game
level.
changer.
Yeah.
It practically moves the ceiling of what's possible in a given time frame. I mean, it's a different game than more traditional transformations I've seen. And what we did is we actually started designing these solutions, and we got along a significant group of the sales force of the client to work alongside with us. And it was a bit of the process to select different colleagues of different, like seniorities, also finding the people that would be excited about this, they would be willing to contribute, and then they would understand that it's not going to be the first time perfect, right? It's going to be a lot of back and forth, so that we are actually tailoring these to be useful for them at the end of the day.
Can I ask you, how did you identify them?
Together with our main sponsors at the client, they selected a few. We did discussions and focus groups with all of them. And there were at times people that did not want to contribute, or they were not constructive. And then, the decision was that maybe we find a different colleague, right? And of course, you will probably ask me, I need to prove that this is going to work. But it takes a bit of time. So having the right people that were able to give us the input to tailor our solutions. And also one would believe that everything is documented. You should have everything you need. In reality, you do not. There were so many situations where AI would take a particular route, but in reality, the best employees would have done something different based on their experience, not based on an internal procedure that was read somewhere.
But now, if people are really using the component that is recording all the meetings, transcribing all the meetings, then all this information will get stored. And it will become company knowledge and institutional knowledge that can teach the next generation of agents.
Yes, no, absolutely. And as we were doing multiple iterations, with the help of these people, they actually came with a lot of very useful improvements. And I'm going to go into this sales coaching assistant that I mentioned, which was, listening to your calls, giving feedback. You had various talking points depending on the specific profile of the customer. So it was not a simple description, but I knew last time you walked into a branch, I knew where you live, I knew that there's hailstorm risk in this specific neighborhood in which you live, and that actually happened last year, and it was very severe for the neighborhood. I know...
Very valuable.
Look, it depends what you're trying to sell, right? Insurance, I feel this goes a bit into the...
No, it's very valuable. If you know exactly what buttons you need to push, or you are able to push, you are really able to modify the numbers, the sales numbers.
It really worked very well, and we tested this. We all collected our ideas in the beginning, right? But maybe it not be relevant If you approach me with a product, the fact that I don't know, live in Bucharest or live in another city, or I'm 10 years older or younger, maybe it wouldn't matter for me to buy a specific product. So we did a lot of testing in order to figure out what actually matters. I mean, if I, for instance, I'm a young professional that is looking to buy its first home now, if you lead with this, when you try to convince me to also buy property insurance, it's going to resonate. Whereas if you are thinking of my parents that already built this, you would go with the angle of protecting their legacy. That would resonate better than buying their first
And
home.
the very best agents know to do this by experience, but in order to generate that type of experience and that type of pattern reaction, you need to build for 10 years a portfolio. But right now, if you can use it and transform it into institutional knowledge, the guy that started 6 months ago, if it's open-minded, he can have performance similar to the one who's 10 years in the business.
Exactly. And you get all these points, and it's not like you read from a script, right?
That
But you
is
have
very
this
strong.
handy. And what we noticed, because I mentioned we did a lot of pilots. In the beginning, they working okay, but they started, like catching up as we would, of course, like tweak various aspects of the solutions. But we actually noticed that the more junior colleagues, which were also the most eager to adopt, started having better results than more senior agents that have like bigger portfolios.
Because they're open-minded.
Yes.
Because that is the critical ingredient, and they're hungry.
Exactly. And I think that what we need to prove at the end of the day is that it helps you do your job better.
Do you already have results after this implementation? Like results that you can share, like this is the increase that we've observed or something that it's...
So I can share maybe from the, let's say, some of the pilots, but
Yeah.
we've seen up to 2 to 3 times better conversion when we would use these tools. And I think the core is, are they the means to an end? Because the end is, can you achieve these ambitious targets that we set? And if you are able to do so without leveraging these solutions, I mean, I guess that's fine, but they are supposed to, like help you get there faster and without, all this like extensive admin and preparation time in between. And everything fell along this strategy, meaning if you think of the incentive system or the communication that came after these solutions were scaled to the full network. So not only to the pool of agents that we were working with, they were again centered on the results rather than I want you to use this for the sake of using it, right? This is, I think AI is a means to
So
an
later
end.
the reward itself was the main contributor to changing the behavior?
I would say, I mean, it's the, like reaching the target. That was the goal. You need to reach your how do you get there?
It's really up to you, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, these tools were quite useful, I would say, based on the results, right? And people were excited to use them. And I think it would be difficult to compete. Let me give you another example. I mentioned in the beginning hyper-personalization.
Yeah.
Because with the same type of logic of figuring out how do I address and engage with you as a customer in terms of like marketing campaigns. So email, SMS, whatever the company was using. Exactly. The marketing teams were able to cover some personalization, right? I mean, depending on
with
what was relevant.
personas, with
A bit
groups,
of,
with targets.
let's say, I don't know, 5, 10, maybe you have a big team, you go a bit beyond. But we were able to do, after we build our solution, with a click, 300. And 300 segments that were relevant, right? Because another example, rather than the location, would be if I know you're using my digital app, for instance, then I want to steer you there. If you are not, then I
want to steer you on the
actually,
web.
I want to call me. Or if I have, for instance, our client did a loyalty program. And different customers had different tiers. So I want to maybe try to cross-sell you with something and emphasize what benefits you would be able to access if you go to the next tier. But you are in a tier, you are in a different one, you are in a region, you're in a different one. So the manual work,
It's huge.
it wouldn't have like justified this. But
Today it's possible to do it hyper personalization at scale. So I heard you talking about banks, about insurance companies. I'm wondering, what is the type of company or your ideal client profile that would be best suited to work with you in AI transformation?
It's a tough question. I don't think that there's a particular profile that I would look for, with the caveat that financial institutions usually are, as they are more regulated, the default of when you go in, it's prove it won't break until you touch anything, right?
Yeah.
Rather than more, let's say, less conservative industries. But I think the most important thing for me would be that we share the same vision or ambition, right? That we agree where we want to go, and there's a specific, let's say, this ambition or target set, and that we are partners in this. And subsequently, besides having an ambition and having a timeline, because if you do not, then you start doing various things without knowing where you're going. But the second point is to bring also the people, to actually engage the organization. It's very difficult to drive any significant change in a silo. So you need to bring along, or that company would need to bring along a significant pool of relevant stakeholders that can contribute, and then also business and tech need to go together.
So, for example, if we go back to the sales example, and you selected that champions or the people who were promoted, do you remember by any chance what was the percentage from overall population of sales that were selected?
It was like less than 10%. So
Less than 10%. So I was just curious, what's the proportion you need to actually move the needle or start the movement? Because I think those people that were selected were probably becoming also the people who believed in the project and actually talk about it. So I was just curious, what was the percentage of that? It was like 30%.
Transformational
40%.
vectors.
Yes.
It's also in the beginning, I mean, not only in the beginning, but it's also a bit of a time commitment. So as you can imagine, people could be at time reluctant that, I already have like my day-to-day job.
You had something on top.
Yeah, I need to carve out time and like to support you for something that it's still unclear for me how it's gonna help me. So there are different ways to do this. Either you get like fewer colleagues that truly work with you side by side, and or a bigger pool, and you have a certain percentage of capacity, because in reality you need them to test at various points in time, right? You will need time to implement, to do some testing before you go to them. As soon as we have the people, we're going to find a way to involve them and collect their feedback. And this was immensely helpful, because when we actually rolled it out forward, it was very well received. And just to give you another example, their managers, so the managers of the sales force that would listen to the calls or to the discussions, they were able to cover, before having these tools, less than 5%. And it was a bit tedious to, I meet with my team, I need to give feedback, I need to like listen to the calls and try to say something that would help you. And then we deployed the tool, 95% were already covered. Both the sales agent and the manager would have the points, were able to see the patterns, to observe what's changing over time.
They're having already the insights that they need to discuss.
Exactly. And I already know what I'm doing maybe well and where I'm falling behind, right? So I can actually try to improve discussion by discussion. And my manager doesn't need to spend a full day just, like listening to my calls. Of course, you should do this for a few of them, but at the end of the day.
So you are working at the intersection of technology and domain knowledge. And you are, as we were discussing, you are putting them together and making them work together. But looking back into the pure domain knowledge area, where generally consultancy companies are selling most of their services. Considering the availability of the information through large language model, which becomes more and more reliable as time goes on, did you start to encounter situations where the clients are challenging you with what Claude said or with what ChatGPT said, or challenging the value of the hours that they are getting?
I did see a lot of clients that are, of course, like using different models to like maybe cross-check or like bring various perspectives. I don't think it's yet at the level where it would impact my work. Let me tell you why. Because it's, I think it's also an element of trust, right? I assume we could collect hundreds of like very good ideas, but the fact that we are able to pull in the right people, experts across the globe that not only had these ideas, but they implemented this. They've been in the trenches. They know what you need to look out for, what can go wrong, how can you avoid some of the challenges that they've seen in other clients. And they've been already through this experience end to end. I think it can give you the, let's say, a bit of a guiding light that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And again, paired with the trust element that you have a, you know, kind of a human side by side to guide you.
So practically you already started to feeling it, but still the advantage that you have it's so big that it doesn't count practically.
I think that would be a good summary, like
Yeah.
from
Okay.
what I'm seeing now.
I'm asking because we as a technology company, on the other hand, we have already clients that are coming and are doing exactly this, challenging based on what large language models say. And I'm curious how it's looking from on another side.
No, I mean, there are also there are some things that I do see changing. Meaning, if I think of management consulting, I wouldn't even say decades ago, it was way more recent. But you would also have your traditional groundwork of, I need to build a lot of slides, like a full presentation that I do, or the Excel analysis, like I run, and it took significantly more time. So from that perspective, we are truly changing, or we are spending way less time on this and more time with the clients. And
Considering what you said, so you are spending less time on building decks. I believe there are a lot of functions within the organization that today have, let's say, a big part of their job taking 10% of the time that was taking yesterday. Yeah, we can agree with that. Yeah.
What do you do with the free time?
The question is the free time received by the organization on average, or is the free time reserved by the employee? Based on what you see, based on the discussions that you're involved?
It depends. Classical answer. But in reality, if we are talking about something that's marginal, like I summarize my email, or what do I need to do for today, and it's 5 minutes here and there, I don't think it translates in anything meaningful. Now, if we are talking about really completely changing how we do our work, for instance, like for the sales organization, then the expectation is, with the time that I freed up, you are expected then to sell more. So the targets, of course, are increasing because I'm reinvesting the time that I saved from you not having to, listen to the calls, taking notes, preparing before, and searching 100 papers to figure out what you discussed with this client last time. But then I expect more in exchange.
The reason why I've asked it, I'm coming from a discussion that I had last week with a friend, that has a company that has been through a lot of transformation recently, and
It's a positive word.
It's a positive word. This means that for the layer of account management, they each had 20 clients. They need to send a lot of reports. The reports generally took first half of the month to send for the previous month. And now with automation, it was reduced to 2 days. So practically freed a lot of time. But when there was a discussion about the ability of taking more clients per person, now it's not possible. It's difficult.
I think it's
Yeah, so this is why I'm asking if this is an exception or this is a thing that you can see, because you have a different vantage point. You see multiple companies, you see different stages of transformation.
the capacity. You either reinvest it or you let it go. And I would say the management of the majority of the clients are quite decisive to go one way or the other, depending on what's most valuable for the business. Because at the end of the day, it's about reaching this common ambition or vision. And I'm saying that it could also depend on what types of maybe roles you would need. Maybe you could reskill a part. Maybe you would want to, go in a different direction. You invest that capacity. So it truly depends what's most meaningful for that specific company. And I've seen more and more of them going for this like dual approach of it's not only about, like productivity, but we want to achieve growth at the same time.
Now, when it comes to the part related to implementation itself, do you see the fact that the managers or actually the executives are that much aware about the cost that AI actually has? And when I'm talking about, as you already mentioned like 20 minutes ago about the future pricing or maybe LLMs or tokens, but I feel that in some of the discussions that I've attended, people still have this impression that, well, we're gonna automate everything with AI, but nobody really talks about
The cost.
what's the cost for that. And when you go back to your really nice example, well, I automated some emails, some summary of some meetings, and everybody does that, then you actually end up spending up some money, which I'm not really sure how you see it. Is it the leadership teams in organizations that you're meeting aware about the cost also of the AI?
So from what I've seen, and at this stage, I think the organizations are still trying to, and we are supporting them to prepare a strategy in this regard, right? Because if until now what we have seen, it's manageable, right? There's different initiatives are scaling and so on. I don't think the future is giving anybody a lot of confidence that it's,
We are looking at the data chart plotted on the graph and we see where it's going and it's going up.
Exactly. So then maybe there will be, or there could be like more reluctance into investing in something if it's not driving a really completely meaningful change, or is it making me not be as competitive from a customer experience part, because that could also be an angle, not only cutting costs, but nobody will want to wait for me as a bank 2 weeks to give back a decision
for a credit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm also curious where this will land. This is a topic that we're currently working on with some of the clients.
Okay. And the other curiosity was related to the roles in the organization. So we talk about the fact that, some people, well, in most of the cases, you mentioned the fact that people are the main barrier in implementation. I was also thinking, have you seen any organization in which AI created new roles?
I think this is, again, something that is indeed happening, right? And how you actually redefine, because I think even the roles that more or less remain similar, they are still redefined. They operate different in the new reality. And new roles, I would say, absolutely. This is again something we're trying to build, depending on what you're transforming, right? I mean, you can have chief agent officer to supervise the agents, or you can have it per domain. You have your different humans in the loop at various gate points in the process. I would say it depends. I know it's a terrible answer, but it depends on the specific situation. But it's also a mistake from my perspective to go with a solution and again expect that you plug it in and it works, because the whole environment around it need to also probably change, so to going towards an operating model that could sustain this.
Okay.
And Sorry to interrupt. I
No,
wanted to
no
say
worries.
this is actually not even coming from the, let's say, your AI transformation
Yeah.
playbook, but this is something that we have been doing, when
Digital
I was
trans-
thinking, 10 years ago, this was part of how a transformation was run. And this is something I noticed that it doesn't change. So
Yeah.
if you don't have the all the specific directions that you need to look into, and if you don't set up the infrastructure to support you to actually embed whatever it is that you're doing, but to actually embed this in the organization.
When you say infrastructure, can you be more specific?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of the proper roles and responsibilities.
Okay.
Your
So the organizational
org design.
infrastructure.
Exactly. Your, let's say, progression of initiatives or whatever that you're implementing, your cadence of the meeting, the overall discipline and rigor around the process to support you to embed this. If this is something that is not properly set up at the beginning, it's way more difficult later on to establish.
That goes back to my view. You were mentioning the fact that you have to have a strong vision in terms of where you want to take the company or where you want to take the department around that. But I found
That
it
is
also that.
That infrastructure is more the backbone.
Yeah, I'm
And
starting
the-
from that.
yeah.
Yeah, starting from that. I was saying that compare with other organizations or other transformations that organization did. So any kind of transformation organization had always an organizational design. So we are transforming the business. We have an org design, as you're saying, role responsibilities, new structures,
Yeah.
Yeah.
cutting
Change
up a layer,
management.
whatever, adding a layer, etc. On AI, actually, you don't hear that much talking about the fact that actually, well, we are implementing AI, but we don't really talk about how
Redesigning the
redesigning the
organization,
organizations
in
to, work in the new format in which you have also AI agent, you have everything around that.
We are hearing a lot of stories. Now I've jumped in a connected fashion. We are hearing a lot of stories about companies firing a lot of people. Is it part of this organizational restructuring for implementing AI?
I would say it depends on the specific situation, right? I'm not saying AI could not be a cost-cutting type of lever. For sure, it could potentially even an expensive one if we look at the future. But it truly depends what the goal is. I would say it's rarely that the companies that I have been serving go purely for only cost cutting. It's usually connected of, can I improve my customer experience?
Yeah.
Can I actually be faster? Can I be more agile? Am I fit for, not the future, am I fit for the present that is now? That is the driver. Of course, there is impact expected usually in the bottom line, but connected also to what you were mentioning earlier. If you put AI on top of a broken process,
It will still be a faster broken process.
Exactly. I mean, it's not the best way to go about it. So this is actually one of the things that I noticed when everybody was expected that AI transformations and maybe even stronger when we moved a bit from Gen AI to agentic AI, that also changed the game a bit, going like executing end-to-end
Operations and
tasks. But I assume, and even me, I expected it to be significantly different than everything I knew so far. And this is one of the areas that I noticed it needs to stay the same. You need to maintain this holistic approach. You need to maintain the rigor. Otherwise, it's
a mess.
Yeah, I was trying to
find another better word. It's a mess. Yeah.
It's truly a mess, and it's more difficult when you have all the threads running around to collect them back and at least understand where do we stand, right? And what is the first thing that we need to solve when you don't even have this central visibility that enables you to make a right decision.
Miruna, just when you look at your role is very broad. Yeah, you actually have a 360 view. Where are the areas that you particularly enjoy the most in the role? Is it selling and meeting the customers? Is it implementing? What's your favorite part?
Tough question, but I would say it's actually spending the time with the people And maybe let me give you a perspective of how my career was before being a manager, because I would spend also time with the clients, but you also do the work, do the slides, do the analysis. So it's a bit a different from that perspective. And now I get to be in, let's say, more rooms where more important decisions are being made, and I get the chance to advise the people that I was before only, presenting with analysis. And I think this is the part that gives me most energy at the end of the day. And also sitting at this intersection in, for instance, in consulting between the client that you serve, but also the teams that I'm running and that I'm trying to, coach and guide and work side by side with them. And also my leadership, right? The people that are actually running and steering the impact that we're trying to achieve with the client. So it's a bit, being a spider in the web and trying to keep all these three parts aligned, because at times they are straying away, or people might have different expectations and so on. So I really like this bit of an orchestrator role.
And going back to the metaphor with the spider, do you feel that you are pulled more in a direction than the other?
Every day.
Every day, all right.
But the direction changes also. Right, depending.
So as a spider, you are more going based on where you are pulled than listening on the web.
I am pulled. This does not necessarily imply that I'm following, a direction, because it's also having this visibility comes with, I think, that the responsibility then to bring everybody on the same page, because all these three parties maybe don't always know what the other part wants. And the complexity, of course, exponentially increases when you think like a bigger company is, or more markets, 100 stakeholders from the client, for instance, being involved day by day. Complexities increase significantly. Right? So I think having this orchestration and having a very clear discipline and rigor, as I was mentioning around, it helps me stay afloat in some days and
in control in the other days.
Yeah, and some days it thrive, and some days only survive. So depending on the
context.
Exactly.
So I also know that this is your actually first appearance in a podcast.
It is, yes.
And I was curious, what made you say yes this time to an invitation?
So I had multiple speaking opportunities in the past, and I was really excited to also join a podcast, share my perspective from my experience, because I believe generally we could benefit for more practitioner voices, like people that have been, like in the trenches, can share a bit of nuggets or some nuggets of experience and learnings that they have gained so far. And thinking of me, 10 years ago, I would love to believe that I would have been inspired by the point in which I have reached today, in terms of the topics that I have the chance to work, the clients that I'm serving, especially as a young professional coming from Romania. So this was not, let's say, this was only an ambition for me 10 years ago. And then lastly, I'm generally excited to share what I've learned so far.
Thank you very much for accepting.
Yeah, and I actually have a last question, because I'm also curious, outside of work, if you automated something for your personal life.
For work, I would have had a lot of examples.
I'm pretty sure.
But outside of work, it's not fully done yet, but I started building it. And I got this inspiration from a colleague of mine that built with Codex her own app to optimize what she's wearing day by day. So to pick, how to your outfits. Yes, and this is immediately relevant, because as in this line of work, we usually do travel quite often. So packing, unpacking, it's something I do weekly.
Is doing packing practically. You are saying what trip you are going, and then it's assembling the list with
What do I need
what
to
you
put
need to
in?
pick.
Yes.
Clever.
Yeah,
That
for a
is
woman,
good.
yeah. But for
That
a
is
man, you
good.
could just select the same
I
clothes.
think
but-
it's a bit, it's a different game for men in
Yeah.
this line of business than for
Yeah.
women. I would say,
Yeah, from our point of view, this is technical.
Okay.
this is not truly saving time, right?
Yeah.
It's marginal.
So it's almost done.
It's
you say.
almost done.
Almost
All
done.
right.
Congratulations. And in the work, what is the thing that you automated in your line of work for yourself that you are most proud of?
I don't think there's something that I'm particularly proud of in terms of my
Your accomplishment, but let's
in terms
say
of
that-
my accomplishment. I mean, there's a bit of like summaries or documents that I build or meetings that I schedule automatically. But what I'm most proud of, it's what my team is able to do now with the tools that we have in terms of like not only running an analysis, but building an like entire presentation, like giving live feedback, the agents that are changing it with within a second, and all this having the access to the company internal knowledge corpus. So I think their lives change significantly more than mine.
One last message for somebody who owns a company and wants to start implementing AI. What would be just the most valuable piece of advice that you would give to that person?
I would say that AI is the easy part.
like that. Yeah, it's the easy part.
Mic out.
Yeah. Mic drop.
Yeah, Miruna, thank you very much for having accepted our invitation and for the discussion. It was really pleasant, and hope to see you again here.
Thank you so much for having me.